Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous, and today we are doing a Twin Peaks Thought of the Day. My guest is Mr. Josh Eisenstadt himself. Unfortunately, he's not able to be on video because he needs to be incognito in West Hollywood, staking out various restaurants in the hopes that David Lynch will be filming there today. Josh, how the heck are you?
Great. Actually, I'm this restaurant. He's there right now. I'm looking at him through the window. Hi,
Really?
David. How's it going?
My goodness. Can you
Sorry, he's on like take five. This shot's a little bit tricky, I guess. I'm trying to
um,
look at that slate. Wait a minute. What does that say? What does that say? Does it say Ronnie Rocket? Hold on. Let me get a closer look here. Ronnie Rocket. Huh. Hmm.
I was hoping that he was going to be doing Mulholland Drive, the series now. Just bring everybody back and let's see what it would have been like as a TV series.
Watching in this restaurant at first, I thought it was Wild at Heart, a sequel to Wild at Heart, because there's somebody in there with a snakeskin jacket. But I guess it's Ronnie Rocket, mixed with Wild at Heart. Of course, we're joking, everybody. I'm not for real.
Although Laura Dern is there, so
Yes, yes, with a shaved head.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Hey, she would do it for David.
I believe she would. I remember that news thing that went out about her playing a character with a shaved head.
Right. All right.
So
So let's kind of address the elephant in the room, that article that came out a few days ago. Obviously, it's been kind of sort of debunked. But when you hear things like this, as well as David Lynch, and you hear that he's potentially filming something, uh, when you hear that kind of news, what goes through your mind? Are you like, yeah, I totally buy it, or just because he's always in that sort of creative zone, or how do you approach news and rumors like this when they come about?
well, it's kind of dependent. It's been different at different times, different time periods in my life for sure. Um, I'd say before Inland Empire, things tend to be announced quicker when he would do a project.
Mm-hmm.
After that, he seemed to have worked it more secret, really starting with Inland Empire and the way that that was done without really anybody knowing it. And since that point, whenever I hear anything like that, let's say cautiously optimistic, hopeful, but not getting my hopes up too much. And I'd say that my reaction was kind of the same way this time. Like, I really hope it's true, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much because I don't want to be let down. But hopefully, there's something to it.
Did you notice that he kind of slowed things down around the time that the iPhone was created?
Yes.
Once
Yes.
people could take pictures or video and live stream at the same time, that's when he became very cautious. And it culminated, of course, when they were filming the finale of Twin Peaks season 3, or The Return, outside the Palmer House. After that, he's sort of like Willy Wonka. He kind of just went inside the studio, and very few people have seen him since, except for, of course, the weather reports.
Yeah, which is I just remember that was quite unfortunate too, that of all the scenes that had to get live streamed, it had to be the final scene. It's unbelievable that that happened. But
I,
I
I
guess,
was I was in disbelief. I'm sure you were too, right? Thinking they couldn't possibly have been filming the final scene in front of everybody, right?
I know, I was thinking the same thing. I remember watching that part 18 the first time, and as it's going on, obviously because everybody knew about that, knowing that scene's going to happen and watching it and thinking, where in this is it going to happen? And then thinking, well, there seems to be like only 10 minutes or so left.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be near the end or like the end? And yeah, I just remember that thought. And it's really unfortunate that happened because it would have been nicer to have not known ahead of time that that was going to happen.
You remember the footage, the behind the scenes footage that we saw when Kyle and Cheryl walk up the stairs to the Palmer door, and for camera reasons, the front door just opens, right? Because obviously they're trying to get that shot. But because of that, when I heard that an episode or a part was called "No Knock, No Doorbell," I thought, "Oh,
Oh,
that's gonna be where the Palmer House comes in."
right, right.
But I
Yeah.
remember, yeah, but I remember sitting there watching season 3, the ending, and going, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like, this is the last scene, because I spent, months before, saying to people like, "Yeah, we saw that footage. That's really cool. Don't worry, guys. It's not like they shot the final scene in front of an entire neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. And then, as the episodes went on and it wasn't in them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's address the other elephant in the room, because there's a lot of people out there talking and saying things like David Lynch is definitely not filming. And again, we don't know if he's filming something or not filming something, but there is something I do want to put on the record officially, because there's been a lot of whispers and rumors, and even on this channel, like, hearing things and like reporting it back to everybody going, we don't know what this means. But, Peter Deming has said that prior to the pandemic, they were getting ready to shoot something. Kimmy Robertson in Dallas confirmed that they were getting ready to shoot something, but the pandemic kicked in. David Lynch has gone on record to say prior to the pandemic, he was getting ready to continue a story. Can we once and for all just confirm that David Lynch had at least a potential, starting of a cast and crew for whatever his next project was going to be prior to the pandemic? Was that a go prior to COVID hitting?
I mean, my guess would be, based on all the information we have, I would say likely yes. I would say it very likely was a go. As to what it was, I mean, I'm going to guess it's the Wisteria / Unrecorded Night, which is very likely the same project. But as far as what that is, I mean, hopefully that won't forever remain a mystery, but obviously right now it's a major one. If I had to venture a guess, and this is a wild guess based on what David Lynch said about it being a continuing a story, I would say that maybe, and of course there's no inside knowledge on this is just a guess, but maybe it's tangentially related to Twin Peaks. Maybe it's a series kind of, maybe it involves, Linda, who shaved her head. And
maybe
she's going around, the Judy World version of Odessa, Texas, and trying to figure out who she is or escape or something. And she meets all these new characters. So it's kind of a new story. But because it's Linda and because it takes place there, it's tangentially related. Kind of like, let's say, the way when season 3 starts, if you had those first few scenes out of there and you started with the New York part, and then you went to the second New York scene with the glass box, and you kind of stuck there, it would be, it would seem like it's tangentially related to Twin Peaks, even though it is, in that universe. So I think maybe if I had to venture a guess, I'd say it's something like that.
Right. But we can say, based off everything that we have gathered from evidence, that there was a project ready to go, not just in the beginning stages, but basically cast, crew, getting ready. And then obviously the pandemic hit.
I would say that seems highly likely. Also, all those reports about David Lynch being in Netflix and having meetings at Netflix, which I think, as I recall, there were even some photos, I think that was substantiated.
Right.
So I would say it's safe to assume that. However, then that would mean if it was Twin Peaks related, that obviously there had to be some rights deal between Showtime and Netflix.
Which is not impossible to conceive of, considering that they already had a licensing deal with seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely conceivable.
Yeah, because when he premiered, what did Jack do? Right? Or what is that right? That
yes.
Or is it what did Jack know? Like, what did Jack do, right?
What did Jack do?
Right. That movie scared the heck out of my son. When the little monkey started singing, my kid, I have a video of my kid just completely like losing it.
Oh wow.
But that was filmed, everyone was saying it's a new short, but that was filmed like during like right after season 3, if not during post-production of season 3. So it had been around for a while. And so when he premiered on Netflix, I thought, David Lynch can't possibly be just doing a deal with Netflix just to get this short film on there. There has to be more to this deal than that.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar thought, and I do think that based on all the evidence, I think it's a pretty safe bet that there was something that was going to go, and it was something with Netflix, and it probably was this, Wisteria Unrecorded Night, and probably the same project, I would assume, with Laura Dern with the head shaved.
Right.
But
And this was
that's
at a time prior to the pandemic when Netflix was just throwing money at filmmakers. So Lynch could have gotten whatever budget he wanted from them.
yeah. What I've heard a lot of people say, is that Netflix at that point, people were saying they haven't, at least in the film industry, a lot of people are saying they have kind of unlimited money to throw around at that point. So
Not anymore.
not anymore, but then they were doing very well.
I mean, they threw 200 million at the Irishman. So
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
So there's another comment coming in that we have to address.
Okay.
Frame into Focus says Mark Frost though owns half of Twin Peaks. That's why he was the executive producer on Fire Walk with Me. There have been developments over the last few years of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you mind going into some detail on that? Because I've just heard that David Lynch bought out Mark Frost's side of it. Is that true? Or
I don't know what the deal was, but I remember reading a few articles and about this, and basically what it said was that Twin Peaks Productions had been reincorporated to be just David Lynch and not Mark Frost. So that would suggest, I don't obviously no way to know what the deal was, but that would suggest that there was some kind of buyout of the rights or something like that, reorganization of the company.
Yeah, because I'd heard that Mark Frost was going to be able to continue to write books if that's what he wanted to do, and David Lynch was going to take over maybe another side of or aspect of that production.
That would make sense. But I mean, the other thing that I would remind everybody of, though, is that Twin Peaks Productions also produced On the Air. So just because it's under that label doesn't mean that it's going to be only Twin Peaks. Correct. But it is interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, Peter in the chat reminds us of all the cast members from Twin Peaks that had been posting pictures of wisterias. And of course, whenever they would get kind of called out about it in a humorous kind way, they would always say, no, I just love the look of these flowers, which, after a while just became ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm just thinking, okay, kind of coincidental. Either they knew what they were doing and were kind of just having fun with it, or there's more to it.
There absolutely is more to it. I mean, what's that line that Cooper says when there's
when two separate events occur simultaneously pertaining to the same object of inquiry, we must always pay strict attention.
Amen to that. One or two people doing it, fine, but I think we were over 20. Even Amanda Seyfried was posting pictures of wisterias.
Yes, which is quite interesting because Becky is one of those characters that I always thought there would be more of if we had a season 4.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that storyline is kind of hanging in a way. We know Steven almost definitely shot himself, but we don't know how Becky's going to respond to that or anything else.
And I would say that her story could be considered an unrecorded night.
Yes, actually it could.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if David Lynch is, picked up what is Wisteria Unrecorded Night and is continuing on with that, or whether it's transitioned into something else, because you and I both know that he has started projects, or at least started pre-production on projects, and then decided to walk away from those projects. For instance, we mentioned the other day on a phone call, One Saliva Bubble, right? That was something that was long in development, and he ultimately decided not to do it. So it's not unheard of that he would start a project and then walk away from it too.
Actually, my understanding with One Saliva Bubble is it was even more than that. It was they were pretty much location scouted, cast, everything else, and that the funding with the company that was funding it had fallen through, and that's why it didn't go. My understanding is they were pretty damn close to production on that one. And that was, Steve Martin and Martin Short. And that was a David Lynch, Mark Frost script, and has a lot of similarities with Twin Peaks season 3, actually, with the Dougie storyline.
Right. And even Steve Martin, you were saying, was kept on inquiring with them over the years. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do this?
Yeah. Steve Martin really apparently loved the script and really wanted, really was excited to do it. And yeah, apparently every time he'd visit, he'd ask about it. That's what I've heard.
Another thing that I've heard to dispel rumors out there, is that, there's all this talk about David Lynch leaving midway through season 2, right? And then because he was disgusted with ABC's decision to want to wrap up the mystery, blah 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 blah. It's my understanding in doing research into this that yes, he was upset about that, but he also took that opportunity to start pre-production on Ronnie Rocket, and then came back for the last 6 episodes, not only to direct the finale, but also to star or co-star as Gordon Cole. And then once season 2 ended, he was, fully back in love with the story of Twin Peaks, that he redirected pre-production of Ronnie Rocket to transition into Fire Walk with Me. And that's why that happened. Otherwise, he would have made Ronnie Rocket after season 2.
That's very possible. I can't confirm that. I'm not sure for sure if that's the case, but that's extremely possible. I mean, it sounds reasonable. I do know that he was definitely came back and was quite, was obviously more involved in those last 6 episodes. And, even a little bit before that, because when you consider the Josie and the knob thing was his idea, which is the episode before those last 6.
So that thing that everybody makes fun of was a David Lynch idea.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he didn't direct that episode. He didn't shoot that, but yes, from all people involved, that was David's idea to put her in the wood, which to me makes sense because it connects to the log lady's husband's spirit in the wood, or what, right. It seems to be that. So I think it fits with that whole theme. So to me, it makes perfect sense that was a David Lynch idea.
Another thing that people talk about is that David Lynch kind of stepped back from executive producer duties during season 2 and was not that involved. But it's your understanding, no, he was very much involved, even doing like script notes, like all through the margins.
Yeah, particularly in the first, in the first 9 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. That's my understanding of it, is that he was quite involved in those first 9 in particular, up until, Leland's death.
Another thing I want to, this is kind of fun, just kind of going down the checklist, but so season 1, the Artisan released, we have audio commentaries. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but season 2 also had audio commentaries recorded, but have never seen the light of day. And you were involved with that. Can you tell us a little bit about who did you get to do audio commentaries for season 2? Yes.
It was a friend of mine, Adam Harding, and I were brought on to assist this company, Lip Sync, that was doing that. They were doing the extras for the season 2 DVD set. And, we kind of had a lot of free reign on what to do. And obviously commentary tracks, because there'd been the Artisan season 1 commentary tracks, seemed like an obvious thing to continue. I mean, we knew obviously we weren't going to get David Lynch to do it, but I remember, I think even at the time, I think when I came on board that, they already had started setting up the audio commentaries. As I recall, that was already in motion. So yes, I was there when they were recorded. We had a lot of the directors. We also had Robin Lively came in, wanted to record a commentary for her Contortionistic Jazz Exotica scene. And she came in and just did a commentary on that scene.
Wow.
Too. Just that scene. She came in an extra day, literally called wanting to do that, which was fun. And we had Tim Hunter did his 2 episodes. Todd Holland did 1 of 2. He did episode 11 commentary, but he didn't do 20 commentary. We had Stephen Gyllenhaal, who did a fantastic commentary track for his episode that I really would like to hear again, because it was quite amazing.
Is there any tidbits from any of these commentaries that you thought was compelling that that you can share?
I guess I can share it. The shaking hands, the handshaking in episode 27, Stephen Gyllenhaal telling a story about that was his idea. And that he told David, because he had to run, he ran that by David, said, "What do you think about if their hands start shaking?" Mm-hmm. And that David Lynch, he said his eyes lit up. He was very excited by that and said, "You're thinking the right way, buddy." And I remember that story being told. Now, keep in mind, we recorded these commentary tracks were recorded in 2005, so I'm going a long way back. This might not be word for word, but that's the gist of it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I remember trying to get out of him, and I don't think that he recalled, but I was trying to get out of him. What does Ben Horn see when he turns around right before the "Josie, I see your face" line?
Right.
And I didn't ask him, but I should have when we were doing that. I remember thinking it. I should have asked him about the moment when, and a lot of people don't see this, but when Pete is walking away with Audrey in that scene when she wants to go to the airport, she looks. Oh, Pete's looking back at the wood above the fireplace where he said, "Josie, I see your face," and he waves, suggesting that he's waving to Josie, that he actually saw her and is waving goodbye to her as he walks out.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that that noise we heard in season 3 was, at least in script stage, supposed to be Josie, and it became something else.
That's certainly what I thought the first time I was watching it. I was thinking that's got to be Josie. And there's that one shot in part 7 where we first hear that noise and the camera's moving into the wood at the end of the shot. And that to me was just, okay, that was a visual signal telling us this is Josie. Of course, it ended up being, coming from the basement, but that was definitely my thought.
Now, one of our last conversations, we started talking about differences in the various releases. So much so that I pulled out my original tapes and, sad to say, destroyed Bob / Leland killing Maddie for this. But we did confirm that the digital streaming, Blu-rays, DVD from the gold box on is a different cut of episode 14 than what was presented on the broadcast. And we kind of came to a conclusion that this was David Lynch's original cut that was cut in the broadcast for whatever reasons, because that bloody shot of the face obviously is more graphic.
Yes, it's more graphic and it's closer up. And the other one, I just remember seeing that the first time on the season 2 DVD and going, whoa, different shot. And then also, of course, the different edit earlier in the scene with Maddie running down the stairs.
Well, with Leland charging her.
Correct. Yeah, right. Leland charging her before the scream.
Right. And then... Oh, go ahead. And then... go ahead.
I was just going to say there's several other ones too, right. But I'm assuming you're about to lead into that.
Yeah. So there's the... another video I did was showing the Truman ADR line inside Double R Diner, talking about the Jacques Renault staking out him and stuff like that. And it's like, that is so bizarre. And I tagged Mark Frost and Harley Payton on that because obviously it was Payton's episode. But I was just like, why have all the releases, the artisan release hasn't, like, how does a mix up like that happen?
I don't even know. And that one was baffling to me too, because that was another one hearing it the first time. And you'll hear the audio quality, the sound of the audio itself changes, and it's only in that one artisan release. Every other one,
right?
It's the broadcast way, which is the broadcast way is, in fact, the night Ed's been doing some undercover. In fact, the night you got into town, he was staking Renault out. And then in the artisan one, he says, in fact, the night you got into town, he was staking out Jacques Renault.
Right.
So it's, I mean, I don't even know how that happened. It just feels like there was an audio element, maybe whatever the original, because that would have been, I'm not sure back then how they did the audio, because I don't think they had Pro Tools. Because I was going to say there might have been a second ADR clip that was under there that was being, like, if it was what they were using was something similar to a Pro Tools session, they might have had that, and then it might have been muted, and then somehow one got unmuted and the other got muted when they were putting it together. That's something, but I don't know how they how that would have.
That's so bizarre. How
that's what it feels like.
One random line that has never been heard from before or since just managed to make it into this one edit.
Yeah, and it was baffling at the time, and it still is. I don't know how that. With that one, I'm going to guess some kind of mix-up, like 2 audio clips on a timeline, and one got muted by mistake and the other unmuted. That's the way that's what it seems like to me, because I doubt that was done intentionally, because also it was corrected for the next release. So.
Right. So bizarre. And then we have a few more that we're gonna look into and make sure before we say for sure. But it is interesting, right? That like from original broadcast, which so I've kind of thought that you can get the original broadcast if you obviously weren't alive by the Laserdisc or the original VHS box sets that were released. Would you probably say that, or do you think
I'm sorry, the Laserdisc or the original VHS is how you could get the original
broadcast version?
The Laserdisc and the VHS are the original broadcast versions of everything. But that's
Right.
the only
So,
way to get those.
but the first like official change that we can remember was on the artisan release.
Yep, 100%. It was that one, and then we also had on that artisan release the pan after in episode 5, after the scene with Bobby in Jacoby's office where he's crying, and then it cuts to the bird, and then the pan of the mountains.
Right.
On the artist, starting with the artisan release and onward, there's an extra cut in there on that pan.
Right. Now that's
and that started there.
Yeah. I haven't been able to confirm that only because I didn't want to get out my original tapes again, but I need to do that because yeah, that extra cut is jarring.
Yeah, and I can tell you 100%. Yeah, when you check the original broadcast, you'll see the difference. And anybody out there with access to the Laserdisc or the VHS, pop it in there. As long as it's not going to eat your tape. Yeah. But maybe the Laserdisc, if you have that, pop that one in and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I never bought it on Laserdisc just because, you know, they broke it up into like 8 or 9 episodes and they were charging like $300 a box set. And so I never picked those up, but now I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't.
I have them, but I picked them up. There was a place near me at the time called Dave's Laser, which was just a Laserdisc store. And this is, of course, you know, like one of the only places to really get a really good Laserdisc collection. And at that point, you know, Laserdisc was where it was because, you know, VHS had its issues. It had the pan and scan issues and everything else. And Laserdisc was amazing at that point. And I remember I got a really good deal. One time I went in there and they had the Twin Peaks one. And I think they had the whole thing for like, I think it was like $85 or something. And it was just, okay, I got to pick that up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a no brainer right there.
Yeah, it was like immediate. But it's a nice set. I mean, I like it. But right. I don't have a Laserdisc player anymore, so I can't play it anymore. But I still have it.
Well, yeah, it's probably cheaper to get those players now.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
So I know I only have you for about 10 more minutes or so. So I kind of want to just talk about because we could talk all day, and one of these days we're going to do a longer conversation, obviously. But I would like to just kind of talk about or continue to talk about this news of David Lynch potentially filming something. Because I see a lot of people talking online saying, like, you know, he is definitely not doing something. Again, we have no confirmation he is or isn't, but it's also my understanding that because people operate under the assumption that, like, if they have their foot in Lynchland and they know a bunch of people that, you know, that have worked with David Lynch, that somehow through osmosis or loose lip sync ships that they would get a rumbling that David Lynch was getting behind the camera again. And I just want to say that nobody is going to break that.
That's correct.
No one is going to break that trust to just be your friend. Like,
that is correct. And I think even more because of what happened in season 3 with, you know, that final scene getting streamed and everything, I'd say now for sure, if there is anything being filmed, it would be under the utmost secrecy and nobody would break that confidence because first of all, they'd probably be breaking an NDA. Second of all, nobody wants to betray David like that. Nobody's going to do it. They're going to keep it under wraps. So nobody's going to get anything from the cast that's not authorized. If there is anything going on, I could pretty much.
There's probably NDAs on top of NDAs.
Yeah, if there is something, I'm sure there is.
Now, one thing that we could touch base on is the fact that it is now confirmed, especially since it's long past, that several people involved with season 3, cast and crew, were under NDAs for season 3 for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that says to me that there was always an intention to go back to Twin Peaks or somehow this material. Otherwise, you would not lock people in for a season of television for 5 years.
Yeah, and back in the day, 5-year contract it wasn't a 5-year contract. It's an NDA that I think lasted 5 years. But 5-year contract used to be the standard back in the days of network television. Usually actors would be locked in immediately to a 5-year contract. Like I remember hearing with the Mulholland Drive pilot that everybody was, you know, signed a 5-year contract, all the major cast.
Kyle
so that was kind of a very standard thing.
In 1990, Kyle did.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was extremely just the standard TV contract for a very long time was that 5-year. So that number.
But a 5-year NDA for a season of television?
Yeah, that's different than a 5-year contract.
What does that say? Yeah. What does that say to you when you hear that?
That says that there's more plans to do more with the property, likely, if they want to keep everything silent for 5 years, potentially within that 5-year period, which is part of the reason why I tend to think that Wisteria was kind of one foot in the realm of Twin Peaks in a way. But
Oh, I think so too, because my
yeah.
feeling is that David Lynch can get funding, but David Lynch can really get funding if it has to do with the Twin Peaks world.
Oh, totally. Because I think that after Showtime was, pretty gung ho to go again. I remember reading statements from them saying, we're happy to do it again if David wants to. I remember hearing rumblings along those lines, and I think seeing even a quote from a Showtime executive in an article somewhere saying that. So,
right. And I had been hearing things for a while because David Lynch had said, I think it was at the Emmy presentation, that like if he did want to go back to Twin Peaks, it wouldn't be for 5 years or so, or and then so that got me thinking like, okay, well, everyone's still under the NDA. And then I started hearing rumblings that like, well, it might not be a season, it might be a movie in terms of like a cable movie, or it might be 2 shorter seasons, or 2 shorter seasons and a movie. And I think there was all this confusion happening because I'm not, it's not that I don't think David Lynch kind of had an idea of what he wanted to do, but I think they were exploring different ways of releasing this, whatever the next material was going to be.
yeah, I mean, very possibly. I think the one thing that we can probably say almost for sure is that there was going to be something,
Right.
probably somewhere in that 2020 area,
Mm-hmm.
that was going to be filmed, and that probably was interrupted by the pandemic. I think that's probably a pretty safe bet.
Right. Considering
that was the reason why it stopped too.
Right. And also the fact that we have so many people that have worked with David Lynch actually confirm now that they were ready to go prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. As to what happened after that, it's anybody's guess. But
right.
I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Fingers crossed that David Lynch did not fall out of love with this idea and is in fact pursuing it, whether it be in West Hollywood or some other place.
Yes, and there's the other possibility too, that he is filming in West Hollywood, but what he's doing is an ad, because throughout his entire career he's always done ads, so that's right. Possible too. In which case it would, but it's still David Lynch creating, and some of his ads, a lot of his ads are quite Lynchian and quite amazing. So it's hey, new thing from David Lynch is always good.
Even Terry Gilliam has shot commercials. Like that's how filmmakers keep the lights on, folks.
And Scorsese has shot commercials. I mean,
that American Express commercial.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, everybody does it. It's every director does it pretty much. I'd say I can't think of any offhand that don't. So that is a common thing, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's that too, if this rumor is true.
Right. I mean, and again, we don't know, but we can only hope that David Lynch is being creative and is happy. And, I think that him stopping to do the weather reports, even though, it only took a couple of minutes of his day, it says to me that like he's turning his creative attention elsewhere.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seems like.
So, all right, guys. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, who knows? There's also the possibility that he's doing something Inland Empire style, because that went on for a very long time without anybody knowing about it.
Right.
So
I remember at the premiere, Laura Dern said, "I got to get inside and see what we made, because I have no idea what this was even about."
Did she have more of an understanding after she watched it?
Yeah, I don't know. I do want to say though that there is a single line that has been removed from the Inland Empire Criterion release. So if you have your 2-disc DVDs, hold on to it, folks.
90-year-old niece. Yep.
Right. I wonder why that line was cut.
I don't know. Now I remember there was a lot of people were talking, and I heard this at various festivals and stuff. People say this, that a lot of people were thinking it was 19-year-old rather than 90-year-old, and but of course the 90-year-old gives the suggestion that it's visitor number 1, Grace Zabrisky's character, that he's referring to. Right. So, which would tie in quite a bit, but that line being removed, it's hard to say. It's hard to say why. Are we looking at another? Is it intentional? Extremely intentional? Are we looking at another issue like the staking out Jacques Renault? I'd say it's probably intentional, because but I don't know why.
Right. And I guess the last thing we'll wrap up with is this, the notion that Criterion is going to perhaps put out Twin Peaks, hopefully in a 4K set, which includes all 3 seasons and the movie in a box set that's going to basically bankrupt me. But I'm hoping that maybe that there'll be a short film or a tease of what Lynch is working on, if it does have to do with Twin Peaks. If not, I wonder, now Sabrina says there's not a lot of footage that they didn't use, but I wonder if there wasn't missing pieces for season 3 that they're going to incorporate. Something's going to be put onto this set, I feel, to make us want to buy it again.
Yeah, I'd feel like very well could be the case. And yeah, maybe it's that. It could be season 3 deleted scenes, because we don't know. We know about a little bit. We know about the 13 Sycamore line.
Right.
We know about the stuff with the fireman that's on the behind the scenes on the DVD and Blu-ray set with the fireman in the red room,
which is so bizarre. But I mean, like,
yeah.
I guess he was in the season 2 finale red room, right? So it's not totally bizarre. But I think him just looking like Hugh Hefner in the Black Lodge,
right? Yeah,
I think there's something probably having to do with Becky that got left out. I feel like there was something missing. There seems to be, like, her part seems truncated.
Yeah, and one thing about that, and it's something that I've wondered about, is the scene, Steven's last scene with Gersten in the woods, where Gersten Hayward is saying, he's saying, Steven's saying, "I did it," and then Gersten's correcting him and saying, "No, she did it." Obviously, a lot of people have speculated that could be referred to the fact that Steven shot Becky. However, I'm going to say no. And the reason I always say no to that is because of Major Briggs's vision in the season 2 premiere about, Bobby living the life of deep harmony and joy. I feel that is definitely at some point Bobby's future. And if his Becky got shot, he'll never live a life of deep harmony and joy after that.
True.
And I don't think I don't think that would happen, because you can't really, that Major Briggs vision it's too powerful and it's too important, I think, to overwrite. So I don't think Becky was shot. Maybe Steven tried to shoot her and thinks that he did because he was so high. There's a number of possibilities as to what that line meant.
Right. I also think with season 3, there's so much world building going on in season 3 that it feels like there's so much more you could explore with the material.
It definitely feels like, I remember, and we talked about this before, and I remember feeling after season 3 ended, like, oh yeah, we're going to get a season 4. Was my immediate reaction afterwards. No doubt about it, we're getting a season 4. That was my feeling at the end.
Right, because even though, I mean, you can make the case that, okay, season 3 ends, but a lot of people said that about season 2. A lot of people said that about Fire Walk with Me. And, season 3 does kind of feel like everything's being set up for the next season to kind of spike the volleyball down. And I guess, you know what? One last thing before I let you go. I think this is really cool, everybody. So I was talking with Josh, and we were talking about, ways, that you could continue on Twin Peaks, et cetera. And maybe we'll get into that another day. But you have this beautiful theory, which is really amazing, because I never really thought about this. I like to joke around that Audrey Horne, after she was accosted by Mr. C, she's put somewhere, right? We see her in season 3. I like to joke that she's sort of the beautician, if you will, because of the final dossier in the Black Lodge, because every time we see Laura Palmer, she's got a different hairstyle. And what terrible fate it would be for Audrey Horne to always have to do Laura Palmer's hair.
Yeah.
But at the end of Fire Walk with Me, in both cuts, we get this camera going across the red room and towards the red drapes. And once we hit the red drapes, it then dissolves to Laura in the red room with Cooper by her side. She sees the angel and she's crying. Her hair's all curled and everything like that. And everyone, because it's the end of Fire Walk with Me, everyone just assumes, okay, she dies and then she's in the red room and she sees the angel and she's happy. You have this theory that red room scene, because Fire Walk with Me is bouncing past, present, and future, because if you take the Annie stuff and all that there's a very good case to be made that the Laura Cooper scene at the end of Fire Walk with Me is not necessarily the ending of Fire Walk with Me, but Twin Peaks overall. How would you get into that?
I think that's very likely. That's been a theory that I've had for a long time, actually, even predating season 3. But season 3 kind of just really kind of made me think that even more, because if we see who we know is definitely, I would say, the real Laura Palmer in the lodge,
Right.
that gets yanked out, and very likely at that point is taken to Odessa in the Judy world, for lack of a better term for that world. And so I would say that based on that, we see that Laura Palmer didn't immediately meet that angel. And I also think that she was very much made up to look older in that scene at the end of Fire Walk with Me. So I do think that whatever happens between what year is this, there's probably a lot that goes on between that and the final scene of Fire Walk with Me that leads to that. And as to why Dale Cooper's still the younger age, who knows what comes between this and that, but it's not too hard to believe that there'd be a younger age Dale Cooper that would somehow end up there rather than the older one.
Yeah, because that push across the red room into the red drape suggests time has passed, and it's not just she dies and then she wakes up in the red room and sees the angel. It seems like that's suggesting that, that a lot of that a lot has happened in between those two moments.
Right. And also, we also have the shot of Laura Palmer being unwrapped before that, suggesting that occurs before also. We also have the issue, too, that time doesn't act the same way in the red room, as we clearly know. Is it future? Is it past?
Right.
And the other thing that I'd say about, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I was going to say one more thing about the red room. Oh, yeah. Okay. So what I was going to say was, in the original script, you'll notice that for Fire Walk with Me, that the scene that the angel scene replaced is the one in the script.
Right.
With
where she's sitting on his lap.
Exactly. And that scene takes place after the some months later in the script.
Right.
So it seems to me like that scene was replaced with the angel scene.
Right.
So if we're putting that in the same sequence of the script, that would then also take place after the some months later part.
Right. Well, thank God they did. I mean, how do you end Fire Walk with Me with her just sitting on Dale Cooper's lap? I mean, it's just so bizarre.
I don't know. Yeah.
But again, that was I mean, even though that made it into, some of the later drafts, the original draft, right? It wasn't Annie in the bed. It was Cooper in the bed. And there was going to be some intimacy shenanigans happening between the two. So, there's always been this sort of like weird relationship between Cooper and Laura in the other world. Like she's kissing him in his dream, or in the alternate pilot ending, which is of course 25 years later as well. There's the fact that he touches her hand in the morgue and brings it back up, and there's always been some sort of intimacy thing going on between Cooper and Laura anyway. And even in season 3, she's kissing him again, right? So
yeah, I mean the kiss alone in the original dream sequence and in season 3, right there, that's an intimacy kiss. That's not just a friendly kiss. So
no, yeah,
that's definitely been something that's been present, and obviously was that what you were talking about the early Fire Walk with Me script. Right. Is extreme. It definitely illustrates that has been a thread that's present.
Well, on that note, let's wrap it up, because we could do this all day, and hopefully you will be able to join me again in the near future. But this has been
absolutely a
lot of fun, and I'm glad we were able to get out a lot of discussion points in these 43 minutes, basically an episode of season 1 of Twin Peaks. So.
Definitely. And I'd just say, to everybody out there, keep hope alive. David Lynch is a creative person. That's what he does, is he creates at all times. I'm pretty sure that when he's not making film that he's painting. So he likes, building things. He has multiple mediums he creates in, but he's a creative person. And him filming something would be amazing and wonderful. And it's not out of the question. So I say, keep hope alive.
Absolutely. And continue on to look inside every diner in West Hollywood, and maybe you'll spot them. On that note, thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to follow us also on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Email us anytime at obnoxiousandanonymous@hotmail.com. Josh, this has been wonderful. Thank you again. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And have a great day, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.